In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope that we're all fresh and we have all our brain cells functioning, and we'll have a very quick recap of what we said last night, and we'll build on it with part 2 this morning. But I'm not going to speak for the recap last night. For those who did not attend with us last night, I want those who attended to give a quick 2-3 minute recap of what we discussed. So very quickly, we talked about the existence of God, okay? And we said that we have 2 questions that we attempted to answer last night. What is the first question? Where did the universe come from? And the second question? Where did we come from? Okay, the first question, where did the universe come from? We had 4 possible explanations. What are those 4 possible explanations for the origin of the universe? It came from nothing, self-made, eternal, and created. 4 explanations or 4 options, and we said, could it have come from nothing? Doesn't make sense, because nothing comes from nothing. Could it have made itself? No, because for it to create itself, it must first be. Very good. Is it eternal? Science has proven there are 18, someone asked me, I think last night, there are 18 scientific laws, and I can give you what these are, that had concluded that the universe is not eternal, and it had a what? A beginning. So if it didn't come from nothing, it's not eternal, it's not self-made by process of elimination, the universe must have been created. And he who, or the agent that created the universe must be outside the realm of the universe. The universe falls in the category of matter or mind. Matter. So the agent that created this matter must be not only natural, but it must be supernatural. And who is supernatural? A mind that created matter. A mind that created the universe. And this mind is a person. Very good. And this person with a capital P is God. By the way, do you know the word logos? Logos in John chapter 1? You know what the word logos mean? Word. But this is a very weak translation of the word. In the beginning was the word. في البدء كان الكلمة. But the word is not the accurate translation of the word logos. Logos also means mind. It also means light. It also means truth, and it means word or language. So if you study the etymology or the origin of the word logos in Greek mythology, you will know that St. John, when he was writing his Bible, his gospel, when he said in the beginning was the word, he actually meant to say in the beginning was the mind. Read and research on that. You'll find it very fascinating to know that the word logos means mind, and that's what St. John meant by creating this world. طيب, where did we come from? The law of biogenesis says life cannot come from non-life. If you have life, it must have come from life. Who is the life giver? Obviously, someone who possesses the properties of life. Someone who did not acquire life from someone else or something else. Who is that? Who is the life giver? Who is someone who is living by his own nature and power? It's the God of the Christians, because we as Christians call him the life giver. When Abuna holds the paten in the liturgy, at the very end during the confession, he says what? Amin, 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 I believe that this is the what body? The life-giving body. He doesn't say this is the living body. There's a big difference between living and life-giving. We are all what? Living, but we're not life-giving. God is the only one who is life-giving, and there's a difference. And if you get, معلش, and I'm deviating شوية, but I'm just doing a quick recap. If someone can get on his phone or her phone, the Bible, or you can get 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45. If you can get that very quickly, raise your hand and let me know. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45. Who's the quickest who can get that? 1 Corinthians 15, 45. Come on, it doesn't take that long, Jonathan. 45. You got it? Read it up. Read it out loud. Out loud.
Just in case I got it. Like, I got it.
And so it was written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit.
Perfect. Do you see the difference now? 1 Corinthians 15:45. The first Adam was first Adam and Eve were what? They were living beings. But the second Adam, Christ, was not just a living being, was a what? Life-giving spirit. So now we know we have to have someone who has a life property within himself, that's God, and then he's able to give life to others. So we said, yes, Bishoy.
I've heard to this passage that when they speak of the two atoms, one is referring to the atom as the atom, when like beginning matter or beginning life, stuff like that. Does that have any connection to it, or could it?
Atom as in A-T-O-M?
Yeah.
Oh, no. What St. Paul is referring to here is Adam as in the created first man. Adam, not atom.
Yeah.
Adam, yeah.
I've heard people say, like, oh, that could be a reference to...
Oh. You can think whatever you think, but that's not what the intent of the author.
Okay.
Yeah, but thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that. So now we explained where the universe came from. We explained where we came from. There must be someone who is what? Supernatural, immaterial, metaphysical, outside of the realm of this world, because he must have had a what? A will, a mind, and a person to create, to choose to create. And that person, we looked at the characteristics. He was what? He must be infinite, omnipotent, omniscient, life-giving, loving. All of these characteristics point to the existence of the Christian God. Now we move into the second argument, which is, I call it the moral argument. This is a lot more practical. So I want you to participate a little bit more, please, with me. The moral argument. Is there a right or wrong? Is there an absolute right or wrong? I think we can get more chairs, and I feel bad if we're taking chairs for, okay. So I ask you this question. Is anything right or wrong? Come, you need to tell me. Is there anything absolutely right and absolutely wrong? Yes or no? Yes, of course. Such as courage. Is courage always good in and of itself? It could be misused, yeah, but it's always a good thing. Honesty is always good, is it not? It's always good to be honest. Have you ever heard someone that says, hey, I want you to be dishonest with me? Absolutely not. Loyalty is always good. Love is always good. Love could be misused, but love in and of itself as a virtue, it's always good. Bravery is always good. Kindness is always good. So these are qualities or virtues that are inherently good. You cannot say that these are bad. Likewise, are there some bad qualities out? Of course, the opposite of these. Yes, sir.
How is it possible to attribute? How is it possible to attribute a moral quality to an abstract concept without any action? I mean, if you're looking at these concepts abstractly without how they're applied, how do we put moral value on anything if there's no actions involved?
How do we put moral values if there's no actions involved?
Right, well, you're saying these things are good regardless, but they can be misused. So if we're looking at them at the abstract, how is it possible to say that these things are good or bad if there's no application?
Okay, good question. These virtues are intended to be good. Intended to be good because they're created good. You inherently want love. We want love from others. We expect love from others, and we want to love others. This is something you cannot deny. I mean, this is part of your human makeup, part of the image of God that Mina was mentioning the other day. You want love. That Freud said, not that I quote Freud often, but he said there are only two qualities or two desires that human beings have: to love and to be loved. This is something inherent. So I want that, but I may not get it the way I really need it, or the way it can really fulfill me. So these are inherently good, imprinted upon you as a person. You want courage, you want loyalty, you want love, you want kindness. We seek these things, but the application of them may not necessarily be good. I love my son, but I may be loving him unwisely. That I love him, I let him stay up late until 1 o'clock at night every night, and say, oh, I love him. You see? You see what I'm saying? So distinction between the inherent good of these and the application of it. But we all want these, and we all don't want any of these. We don't want that, do we? These are inherently bad, and these are inherently good. طيب, where do they come from? And that's the question, and then we'll move on to the next point. Where do these come from, and on what basis are they founded? Who says this is good? Who says this is bad? Before we move on, do you all agree that this is all good? Yes or no? Yes. Do you all agree this is bad?
Yes.
Good. Where do they come from? Who says this is good and this is bad? Who's to say? Again, I'll give you 3 possible explanations. 3 possible explanations. No worries. No, it's okay. We can do the Zoom from. Okay.
These guys can.
Oh, gotcha. What are the 3 possible explanations? Either these moral codes or moral values come from society, from evolution, or from God. One of those 3. Can we talk about these 3 briefly? زي ما عملنا امبارح. The universe either came from nothing, self-made, eternal, created. Same thing. Moral values either came from society, evolution, and God. Now, I'm giving you the perspective of non-believers, of atheists that say, well, yeah, you know what? Society makes up the rules. And some other atheists say, you know what? Evolution kind of built in the rules in us. And then we as theists, or we as believers, say, well, the rules came from God. So can we discuss those 3? Let's go to the first one, which is social ethics. Ethics came from society. Yes or no? Now, let me rephrase my question. Society is the originator of the moral law. No. Society is the enforcer of the moral law. Yes. And that's the distinction we need to make. Society does not come up with a law that says this is good, let's make it good. Society enforces that which we inherently know as good. You see? But it doesn't come up with, مثلا, have you ever seen a society that says, you know what, I think cheating on your income taxes is good for a couple of years, let's enforce that. Of course not. Cheating is wrong whether you like it or not. Okay? So society doesn't make up the rules. If that's the case, then we should accept this society, and we should accept this society. If Hitler, if Nazi Germany had powered the world, and the whole world became under Nazi Germany, would that have made Nazi Germany acceptable to all? And killing the Jews and everybody else? Absolutely not. So why do we reject this society and this society? Because we know that we appeal to something other than these societies, something bigger, something more overarching from these society. Something else I want to tell you, society is made up of what? Individuals, of people. If I make up the rules, then I can likewise dismiss them when they interfere with my personal interest. You see? If I make up the rules of a game and I don't like how the game is being played, I can also, at my own preference, I can do what to the rules? Alter them, change them. But I don't seem that I can do that. I feel compelled to submit myself to these rules. Then it must not have come from me. It must have come from someone that has more power over me, because I can't dismiss these rules. I cannot just wake up and say, you know what, I think I'm going to kill a couple of people today, and I'm going to just justify that. Hey, I made up the rules that I'm not killed. Let's not be too dramatic. I'm going to hate some folks today because I made up the rules of loving, and I can make up the rules of hating as well. But I can't do that. It doesn't seem to be practical and livable. Taib. Second option, does morality come from evolution? Which is very common. Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens, all of those big names that atheists are following, they say evolutionary ethics, evolution explains morality. We're somehow hardwired by the evolutionary process that we now intuitively, biologically know what to do right and what to do wrong. Is this feasible? Does that make sense? I mean, evolutionary ethics is a course in philosophy that you can study for 6 months, but I'm just going to give it to you in 3 minutes. So let's not get deeper into it. But yes or no? Does it make sense? I want you to think about it. Yes, Monica, مش كده? Yes. Speak up.
Sorry. No, I got it. Thank you. The longer, طب Monica معلش. Okay.
I don't think it makes sense, because no matter how much
Listen up, guys, listen up.
No matter how much we advance, we'll always just advance in like the things we do, not like what we morally do. Like if you're really trying to,
Yes, very good.
It's more animalistic, I feel, if we just be like killing each other just so we can be on top type of thing.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Like the way you think. Couple of reasons. There are about 7 or 8 reasons this doesn't make sense philosophically and practically and existentially. I'll just go over a couple of them. First of all, it's a category mistake. You know what I mean by? Remember last night we talked about it. What kind of fallacy? Equivocation fallacy. You know what the equivocation fallacy is? When you use what? The term to mean? Two different things. Doctor, exactly. Now I'm going to give you another fallacy in argumentative discourse or in philosophy. It's called category mistake. What's a category mistake? Category mistake, when you explain, basically when you explain one category with another category. For example, when I tell you, hey, listen, the color yellow tastes very good. That's a category mistake, because the color yellow doesn't have a taste. So I cannot describe one category by using a different category. Now, morality cannot be explained by biology. Why is that? Because morality and biology are in different categories. You can't explain an immaterial moral law, morality, by a material biological process. In other words, you cannot say justice tastes very sour or justice is very bright, because justice doesn't have any ontological properties. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a category mistake to explain a natural process or an immaterial, unnatural process, i.e. morality, by a natural material process, i.e. biology or evolution. So that's a category mistake first and foremost. Now, I thought I hid this slide. Okay, let's go to this one. Okay. Richard Dawkins said this. He also was faced with, yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
But you can explain emotions.
You can explain emotions? Yes, you can explain. Here's what you can explain. You can explain the reason, not the reason, the effect and the reaction of your emotion biologically. But you cannot explain why you must love your mother, or why do you love your husband. You see? You can't explain that quantitatively. You cannot measure it scientifically. There must be something, it's in you, it's inherent in you. It's not biologically driven. And this is what Richard Dawkins actually admitted. Do you see what I'm saying?
I mean, like when you're with someone that you love, or like you get aroused, that's hormonal.
Sure.
Just because you're with someone that you love, that is love. which is what you're talking about, and it can be seen biologically.
It's just a biological reaction.
But here's my question is, did that love come from? See, again, we're talking about two different things. The origin of love cannot be explained or based upon your biology or evolution. Okay, reaction, the reason why you're with him or her or whatever, you get this kind of butterflies in your stomach, that's a reaction. But I'm asking, my question specifically, that's why I rephrased the question, the origin of it, the source of it is what I'm looking for. You see, because atheists that don't believe in God are loving, are kind, are nice and sweet, and I have a lot of nice friends good friends who are atheists, but then again, the question is, where did it come from? Yes, sir.
My main issue, though, piggybacking off of that argument,
First of all, do you agree or not?
With what?
With that evolution and biology, evolution and ethics are...
I'm not sure, because I think the mistake is, it seems that we're assuming that evolution has to... So far what we're saying is that evolution can't explain moral law.
Right.
Or it can't explain the origin of moral law.
Right.
But that wouldn't be the evolutionary argument. The evolutionary argument would be that these moral laws aren't actually moral laws, that these moral laws are responses to evolutionary triggers and situations.
Right.
Meaning there doesn't need to be, like the category mistake argument wouldn't need to ever happen, because we're not making a moral argument.
Who's we?
The argument that evolution created what we now think as morality.
But that's what they're saying. But that's what they're saying. That's what evolutionists and atheists say. So I'm not assuming that atheists say that. This is what they're coming out, and this is what I was going to share with you, is this is what they say. Evolution explains the actual moral law. Evolution explains why I must love, why I must be honest, why I must have courage. So this is what they are saying. So I want to address what they're saying, not what we think they're saying. You see?
But it seems that he's couching it in terms of what results you're going to get. He's saying these things are good and people have evolved to do them because of the results, because of what happens, right? So he's saying we can expect rewards from society, or people tend to, survive better if these things happen.
Right.
So because of that, it tends to...
Yeah. Again, we're going in circles. My question is, where did it come from? I am not saying this helps me do this, or that explains this, or explains that. I am only asking for this question. What is the foundational basis, or the basis on which these moral laws are founded? Give me an answer to the origin and the source of morality. That's the only question I'm asking. Yes.
So...
Let's keep the tempo going.
So I feel like it's more biological, just like I'm thinking of a baby. A baby knows to find its mother, and it knows where to go and find that love. Does the baby know that, like, love is the good moral thing?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
We're not talking about the same thing. Okay. What are you talking about? You're not talking about love. You're talking about someone who is a child who has this inherent and innate desire to be with his mother. I am not talking about altruistic love or sacrificial love. You see? I want to make sure we're defining our terms. Let me explain. If I say evolution is the source that hardwired me and programmed me to do all these wonderful virtues, then I could also say, because by definition evolution says, it claims what? That there's some mutation and change over time. Then love, I would expect it to be also evolving over time, and 1,000 years from now, these virtues that I listed to you should also evolve. Or millions of years ago, we must have had different evolving virtues that we now experience. Do you see what I'm saying? But love has always been good. Maybe forget love, because love could be, let's say, sacrifice for others. sacrificing for others. It has always been good from the beginning of time as we know it. But we don't expect sacrifice for others to be bad because it has evolved. So why is it constant where evolution is ever changing? Virtues have always been constant, which means that these constant, inherent moral codes did not come from that which is evolving and changing, because they don't change and evolve with it. Another thing I want to share with you, forget what Richard Dawkins says real quick, I'll get back to him. But killing the handicapped, right, enhances the survival of species, does it or does it not? Yes, and this is what Hitler actually wanted to do. He wanted to get rid of the subhuman race, and he had that race supremacy. Am I correct? Okay. Why is that? Because he wanted to enhance the survival of species. But does that make killing good? No, killing is bad. There's a question. Okay.
The question says, why can't we say that moral values come from evolution, since doing wrong is bad for evolution?
Actually, that's not okay. Go ahead, finish.
Will cause evolving to cease. Therefore, doing good, comma, being.
Okay, that answers this question right here. Doing wrong, by the way, does not enhance evolution, because you need to define what wrong is. What is wrong? When I kill someone, and this is what actually people came out and, I can give you names, people came out and said, you know what, if you're retarded, if you're a mother and you're giving birth to Down syndrome, it's okay to get rid of him or her, because now you're actually hurting the species, if you will, by allowing this child to survive. This is what, if you're really operating on evolutionary principles, this is what you would do, and this is what evolutionists say. I'm not making that up. But then again, something in us says, I'm not going to kill my Down syndrome child because he's affecting or bringing down the evolution, the survival of species, or the level of my intelligence. Well, then why? There must be a conflict. Then this moral law doesn't come from evolution, something else. Why aren't morals evolving? Now, I have a question here for you. Your mind is a product of what? As an evolutionist, your mind is a product of what? Some chemical reactions or some chemicals. مش كده? Why should I trust your mind and not my mind if your mind and my mind are made up of the same product? Why do you, Mr. Evolutionist, why do you have that which transcends the truth that we are discussing? Then you must be appealing to something greater than you. If you as an evolutionist say, hey, I think, the moment you say, I think, you are rising beyond an evolutionary, natural, chemical misfiring in your brain. Because now you're appealing to something greater than you. Then if you say, I think this is the truth, why can't you listen to me when I say, I think this is the truth? Because we're made up of the same thing. Do you get it now? Do you see the point? So there must be something or someone beyond me and you that have placed and ordained these moral values upon me. There's a book that you can read called Moral Animal. I think this speaks to what you said earlier, Monica. And these are some articles that this book speaks about the deficiency of evolutionary ethics. Then where does it come from? Where does it come from? I want to share with you a few sentences here. Morality cannot come from me or anything less than me. It's a rule. I made up this rule. Well, why is that? Because how can something less than me have such authority over me and compel me to do this? Or has that drive or drives me to do this or that? it must be coming from someone greater than me. Because if it's less than me, then I can trample over it and bypass it. So morality doesn't come from me, it comes to me. And that's the theme of it, and that's the conclusion. Morality doesn't come from me, it comes to me. If you're texting questions, that's great, but I just want to make sure that you're not missing out on these concepts, because probably the answer is being given to you while you're texting the question. So if you can do both, multitask, listen and text questions, that would be great. Yes, sir.
Question in terms of, like for example, the Supreme, for example, Court.
How do atheists and evolutionists look at that idea? Do they look at it as these are the elite of the group or humans that make these decisions, so we should abide by
Very good. These are social constructs, patterns of behavior that society agreed upon. And society agreed upon enforcing these social contracts and patterns of behavior for the well-being of others. I wouldn't call this morality in terms of, as far as I'm defining morality as the source that comes from me. I would call this pragmatism. In other words, let's just know how to live peaceably in a society so that we can flourish and civilization can emerge. And I want to explain to you something important too, that the difference between descriptive and prescriptive. Okay, morality and moral values are prescriptive. Perception of the facts are descriptive. And let me explain what I mean by that. I'll give you a couple of examples. So if I were to ask Hitler, do you think killing innocent people is good or bad? Now I'm asking just a very objective moral question. Killing innocent people is good or bad? What do you think Hitler would have said? Or what he said? No, exactly what he said. It's bad. Good or bad? I'm asking what's good or bad? He said it's bad. We should not kill innocent people. Because if he said it's good, he would be in a mental hospital, right? It's bad. But wait a minute. But you're killing all these people. Well, wait a minute. These are not what? Innocent. They are subhuman, and that's what he said. So what he did is that he couldn't escape the inherent moral value. What he did is he changed his perception of the facts to fit this moral value, or else he wouldn't live with himself. He would suffer what's called cognitive dissonance. He can't live with himself. Another example, controversial, abortion. You ask a young lady who casually, and I'm going to qualify by saying casually, okay, not for any casually goes through abortion, and you ask her this question, if she's sane, you ask her, you say, why are you casually doing this? Don't you think killing innocent, don't you think? Ask her this question, do you think killing innocent babies casually, good or bad? What do you think she would say? Bad. Of course it's bad. And then when you press on and you say, well, what are you doing? This and this and this and this, she would say, well, wait a minute, they're not babies until they're born. So what did she do? Again, she couldn't escape the fact that morality cannot be altered with. I cannot say killing innocent babies is good, or I cannot say killing innocent people is good in the case of Hitler. You can't say that because this is something that comes to you. You can't make up these rules. But what you can do sometimes in society, you can say, well, I'll change the perception a little bit of the facts so that I can justify my actions. Do you see the difference now? Sometimes we mix these things up. So the source of morality is given to us, and I'll give you the same picture I gave you last night, which is my favorite picture. I have this picture at home. This is, or he is the source of our moral laws and moral values, because it's coming, again, it's coming, what? To us, not from us. طيب. I want to pause real quick and go to, maybe I can skip the atheists and their need for God, but I just want to give you a couple of excerpts of what the most famous atheists, Albert Camus and Bertrand Russell and Immanuel Kant and all of those big name atheists, and how in their writings at the end of their lives they've realized that they have all been living a delirious life, or as they called it, a life that's unlivable, in other words, and what they actually, their quotations and what they said. But before I go, any questions? Nina? None. Okay. So, atheists and their need for God. Do you all know Jean-Paul Sartre? Sartre? If you want to say it in French. You know who that is? No? Okay. طيب. He's a famous atheist and existentialist. He said, I need God. I reached out for religion. I longed for it. It was the remedy. Had it been denied me, I would have invented it myself. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all of these quotations, but the same thing was said by Freud, David Hume, Albert Camus, Bertrand Russell. All of these atheists denied God with the top of their mind, but cannot avoid him in the bottom of their heart. Every single atheist out there, they may philosophize and say, you know what, I don't think God exists. I can give you some philosophy, some logic, some science, and all of that. Great. But down deep in your heart, you cannot escape the fact that he does exist and he is there. You're just basically blinding your eyes from his presence. St. Augustine said what? You have created us for yourself. One of the most quoted statements of St. Augustine. O Lord, and our hearts will remain restless until they find the rest in you. I want to now pause and give you a real scenario, an interaction I had with a naturalist student that I had in one of the universities in UC Davis, if you know where UC Davis is. I was having this conversation with this student, and I wanted to come up and share it with you. And I called it the duality of the world. Now, we all like to see this, don't we? Especially if you came last night and you saw beautiful sunset in this beautiful place. We all like to see this. What happens in you when you see something like that? Peace, joy, comfort. You gravitate towards this, don't we all? Anybody doesn't like sunsets? I think we all do, right? Now, what happens when you see this? The opposite of that. We all love to see this, but we don't like, and we cringe, and we feel so, why? I just can't reconcile with this. I don't like this. I like that. But wait a minute, it's the same nature that provides me this, gives me that as well. We all have moments of that, followed by moments of this, and that's life. Am I right? Life seems to give with one hand only to take from the other, or with the other. So we have moments of joy and happiness followed by times of grief and despair, moments of serenity and love and all of that followed by earthquakes and tsunamis and volcanoes, and it seems that life is almost bipolar or schizophrenic, or come on, can we just have that all the time? Why do we have this? Moments or the youth, the strength of youth is always followed by the weakness and disease of old age. Moments of wonderful dreams are followed by times of nightmares and moments of night, and so on and so forth, and that's life. The question now, why is it that we can't reconcile ourselves to this duality of this world, but we always long for total harmony and joy? Why can't we reconcile? Now, I told the naturalist, who is an atheist. It's a fancy way of saying I'm an atheist and I believe that I'm a product of this world, nature, exactly. I told him this question. Why can't you reconcile yourself with this and that? If you are a product of nature, as atheists claim, then when you see this, then nature is simply just sneezing, reacting to whatever, coughing. Just nature is doing its thing. Yani if you're part of it, this should not be a problem for you. You should actually look at this and say, 250 million people died. Oh well, that's just nature. We're all part of it, and we're gonna be consumed in it anyways. But something in you doesn't like this. Why does that happen to you? And I gave him this example. I told him, have you ever seen a fish in a fishbowl? He said, yes. As a matter of fact, I own one, and I'm glad he did. This is a real story. I said, good. Now, my question to you, Do you ever see that this fish, or have you ever seen this fish in the fish bowl complain of being wet? He said, no. I said, why? He said, because it's meant to live in water. I said, perfect. Now let's assume that this fish is complaining of being wet every day and wants to jump out of the water. Wouldn't that be the greatest indicator that this fish is meant to live on dry land? He said, yes. I said, this dry land that we have always been longing for is the kingdom of heaven that Jesus Christ provides you and I. You see? I can't, and he can't reconcile himself with all the disasters, the natural disasters in this world, but he longs for a different world. He always wants harmony. He always wants the sunset, the laughter, the joy, the peace. That is the other world, the kingdom of heaven that Christ is providing you and I. You need to actually understand what it is and work for it and attain it. You see? And then, of course, there was no answer after that. He said, well, what is this kingdom of heaven? I gave him the Gospel of John and haven't heard from him since. But that's precisely what we had as a problem with the naturalist. There's no answer for them as to the existential need he or she has. When I say existential needs, the needs to have the sunsets and the laughters and the joy and the harmony. You can't get that in this world. Yes, sir. But before you, did that resonate? Did that make sense? Okay. Yes? No? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Just like piggybacking off of that, C.S. Lewis, who was obviously one day an atheist and now is a renowned Christian, says, if we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy,
perfect.
The only probable explanation is that we were born and meant for another world, which
excellent.
Is the kingdom of heaven.
Very, very well said. That's in his book, Mere Christianity. It's called The Argument from Desire. I'm glad you brought that up. That's my version of the argument from desire. But that's absolutely right. If we have desire for food, there's such a thing as food. Innate desire, he said, because we can have some innate desire for food. If we have innate desire for other things, we have other things to fulfill them. If we have innate desire for total peace and harmony and joy, there must exist that which, or I should say him, who fulfills this for us. I'm going to finish with Pascal's wager. Any of you heard of Pascal's wager before? You've heard of him or it?
The table?
The table, you've seen that before. Yeah. So should I just pass by it?
Go ahead. No.
Any of you?
Enlighten us.
Okay. So Pascal's wager real quick. Pascal is, any of you heard of Pascal? The language at least? He's a mathematician. He argued the existence of God in terms of a wager. A wager يعني rahan. When you go gambling, or when one goes gambling. He based his wager on the fact that a normal, rational person, when given two possible alternatives or choices, he will choose or she will choose the one with the best chance of obtaining a reward. We do that when we invest our money in the stock market. مش كده? We don't want to talk about the stock market now. But anyways, not doing so well. Here is the wager. I try to do it كده in a very simplistic and comprehensive format. Graphics. This is you, subjective, and this is objective. This is beyond you, and this is you. You either believe in God or you don't believe in God. There's no third alternative. It's the law of excluded middle, I think we talked about, Angelo. You either believe in him or you don't believe in him. He either exists or he doesn't exist. And this is what Pascal said. Pascal, he was an atheist. And he said, you know what? I am a mathematician. I'm a logical person. I want to bet my life on the quadrant that gives me the highest reward. And I know there are two options here for me. I either believe in God or I don't believe in God. And there are two options, choices. He either exists or doesn't exist. Which of these quadrant that will give me the highest reward? On that I will place my life and commit my life. This is what he said. So, if you don't believe in God and God exists, then you'll have finite gain and infinite loss. What's the finite gain? Worldly things. بالعربي بنسميها ايه؟ عشت حياتك. عيش حياتك. Right? You enjoy your life بقى. You do your thing. يلا بالظبط بقى يعني انت قلت ايه؟ YOLO, you only live once. Yes, very good. يعني المفروض العيال ما يسمعوش الحاجات دي. Okay. And then you'll have what? احنا بنتعلم منهم. لا بقول عيالي انا عشان ما اتعلمت ايه في الكونفنشن يولو. Okay. And then you have infinite loss. What's infinite loss? Oops. God existed. You're what?
Oh well.
Oh well. I thought I said something else. Okay. It says with an OL bar. Okay. And then if you don't believe in God and God doesn't exist, then you have finite gain. Enjoyed your life and he didn't exist anyway. I lived my 80, 90, 100 years here on earth kind of living it up. ماشي؟ طيب, let's look at the other possibility. If I believe in God and he doesn't exist, I will have finite loss. In other words, all these times I had to go wake up to church in the morning, all the metanias, all the fasting, and we have like how many 200 days of the year, Abuna fasting, all of these things and all the things I had to do, standing up for morning prayer, all of these things, finite loss. All of this and God didn't exist. Let's look at the fourth quadrant. If I believe in God and God does indeed exist, then I will have finite loss. Yeah, I'll have to do all of these things, go to church and pray and fast and all of these things, but I will have infinite gain. In other words, I will be with him forever. Infinite gain. So Pascal looked at this and he said, which one of these, by the way, he's an atheist. That's why he said being with God and he exists is finite loss, because he is an atheist. I'll tell you what he said when he actually became a believer. This changed. This became infinite gain plus finite gain as well. But let me explain. When he was an atheist, this is what he said. Which one of these quadrant do you think will give me the highest reward if I am a gambler or a wager? What is that? This one. Yes. Why is that? Infinite gain. What is that?
Infinite gain and minimal loss.
And minimal losses. I mean, if you're in the stock market, you will probably you know exactly what that gives you. Yeah, I can invest a little bit so I can have long-term infinite gain. So Pascal said, you know what? I'm going to put my wager. That wager was his life on this quadrant. I will assume that God exists, and I will live my life as if I believe in him. And right after he made that commitment, you can read his book. His book is called Pensée. P-E-N-S-E-E. Pensée in French means thinking. Okay, and that's one of his great classic, Pensée. He wrote the wager in his book Pensée. After he became a believer, he changed his wager. He said, what I waged my life on ended up being infinite gain plus finite gain as well. So in other words, going to church, communion, fasting, all of these things ended up being gain, not loss, because I tasted what heaven on earth as I was doing these things. Yes, ma'am. Hold on عشان نسمعك كلنا. It's recorded right behind you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you do it?
علي افتح الميكروفون.
Can you do it for the gain and not for the love in the beginning?
Absolutely. Actually, في ناس كتيرة جدا I think was it Saint Anthony that said perfect love casts away fear, something like that. I think St. John said it in his epistles. But many of us, our first interaction with God or wanting to be with God maybe is driven out of fear. I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me if I don't submit my life to God. But that's the initial driver for me to make that leap. But once you're there, you grow in what? Love. And when you grow in love, fear becomes more minuscule in your life. فاهم قصدي? So you could begin with fear and end with love. Okay. And if you read the Paradise of the Fathers, the church, Bustan al-Ruhban وكده, it's peppered with examples of people that began with fear, ended with love. Here's what I sum it up with. Listen carefully, please, to this, because this sums up the wager. I would rather live my life as if there is a God and die to find out there isn't, than live my life as if there isn't a God and die to find out there is. And this was said, I did not make that up, I just reworded it, but His Holiness Pope Shenouda used to always say these in his lectures. I would rather live my life as if there is a God and die to find out there isn't, than to live my life as if there isn't a God and die to find out there is. Another interaction I had with a colleague of mine, and I told him, hey, listen, you know this colleague of mine, Chi. Okay. I hope he doesn't get that video. Anyways, I told him, hey, listen, he was asking a lot of questions. He's a non-believer, يعني لا atheist ولا theist ولا أي حاجة. He was asking me, he said, well, tell me more about the existence of God and why should I try to see if He exists or not. I told him, my friend, because of what's at stake. And he said, what do you mean? I said, let me give you this example. You just left your home and you have been driving for 5 minutes and you just got on the freeway. Your neighbor calls you and he says, hey, so-and-so, your house is on fire right now, come back, and he hangs up. So you have now to process this message and think, could this be a prank? I mean, you know, he just hung up and told me my house is on fire. I'm just going to assume this is a prank and just keep on going. I've already gone on the freeway. Or you can say, you know what, it's only been 5 minutes. I mean, big deal, I'm going to make a U-turn, exit, and go back and see if my house is on fire or not. Now, a sane person, a reasonable person would do what? Would go back. Why? Because of what's at stake. If he said, I saw spiders on your roof, okay, doesn't matter. But if the house is on fire, no, wait a minute, what's at stake is pretty big. I mean, it's going to cost me what? Again, it's cost benefit. It's going to cost me 5 minutes to come back, but I'm going to have peace of mind. That's precisely the Christian message. What's at stake? Infinite loss. You will be eternally, infinitely removing yourself from the source of love, from the love of God. What's at stake? It's a matter of what? Life or death. So shouldn't you, as a reasonable person, to look at Christianity and give it a try and research and investigate and see, God, if you are the God of the Christians, really reveal yourself to me. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to make that U-turn. I'm going to come back in a form of what? I'm going to read the Bible. I'm going to do this and that. And I gave him the Gospel of John again. And I'm still working with him on some questions he has. So that's what I mean. If you are reasonable enough and you're really seeking the truth, you will do that. Pascal said, God has given us evidence sufficiently clear to convince those with an open heart and mind, yet evidence sufficiently vague so as not to compel those whose hearts and minds are closed. Okay? You see? Okay, there's so much I want to share with you, but for the sake of time, I pause for questions because I think we're getting our capacity of information overload. Questions? Comments? Does that make sense? Resonates?
Do you have the Stephen Colbert?
What is that? Oh yeah, I do. You guys want to watch it? You guys want to watch it? The video? It's a funny video. Okay, before we watch this video, I just couldn't help but share with you, why then do people not believe? Very quickly, if the evidence is so clear, why do people not believe?
They don't want to be accountable.
Huh?
Nobody wants to be accountable anymore.
Exactly, and no one wants to conform to someone and be accountable to someone. And one of the former atheists, he said this, the answer lies in the state of one's will, not one's mind. It's not that I just can't fathom that God exists with my mind, it's that I just don't want to succumb to Him. Can I share with you one of my favorite quotes? Okay, this is one of my favorite quotes, and I want you to pay attention to it. We're almost done. I promise you this time. J.B., he's a former atheist. This is what he said. Listen up. Listen up, please. I'll wait until you guys sit down. Okay, sit down and listen up. Because the presence of God made me more and more uncomfortable. I began looking for reasons to believe that he didn't exist. Listen to this. Not many of us atheists doubt God's existence and then start sinning. Most of us sin and then start doubting God's existence. Perfectly said. Let me repeat that again. Because the presence of God made me more and more uncomfortable, I began looking for reasons to believe that he didn't exist. Not many of us atheists doubt God's existence and then start sinning. Most of us sin and then start doubting God's existence. This is the reason why there are atheists in this world. To justify their actions. That's why I wanted to share with you before I leave you today. You want to read a poem? 2-page poem, right? Written by a soldier held as a POW in Vietnam. This is a soldier that was caught in Vietnam, and he was a Christian, raised as a Christian, but then he was caught by the enemy, and he was gonna be basically executed, but then they wanted to torture him through the night, so they told him, you know what, we're gonna keep you in this cave in the desert, and we're gonna come back tomorrow morning and basically kill you. So you have 8 hours to be tortured, knowing that you're gonna die in the morning. And he wrote a poem, and this poem was actually taken and published. Here's what he said. He was a Christian, and he became far from God, and now he wants to come back to him. He said, "Look, God, I have never spoken to you, but now I want to say, how do you do? You see, God, they told me you didn't exist, and like a fool, I believed all this. Last night from a shell hole, I saw your sky. I figured right then they had told me a lie. Had I taken the time to see the things you made, I would have known they weren't calling a spade a spade. I wonder, God, if you'd shake my hand. Somehow I feel that you will understand. Funny, I had to come to this hellish place before I had time to see your face. Well, I guess there isn't much more to say, but I'm glad, God, I met you today. I guess the 0 hour will soon be here, but I'm not afraid since I know you're near. The signal, well, God, I'll have to go. I like you lots. This I want you to know. Look now, this will be a horrible fight. Who knows, I may come to your house tonight. Though I wasn't friendly with you before, I wonder, God, if you'd wait at your door. Look, I'm crying, me shedding tears. I wish I had known you these many years. Well, I will have to go now, God. Goodbye. Strange, since I've met you, I'm not afraid to die." And that's the poem that he had written. Now, after he came to himself and realized that he's going to meet God tonight. And with that, I'm done. And I have to finish. I had to finish with this. What does it say? ربنا موجود. This is one of his favorite 3 sayings. مش كده? And he is one of my favorite. Huh? CTV? Yes. And I'm not a CTV promoter or anything. يعني. ربنا موجود. Okay. Once again, I have to apologize because I have taken longer than I should have. Forgive me, Mina. معلش. This took longer time. But there's just so much I wanted to share with you and equip you with, so that when you're out there, show them the video. Yes. Let's watch some funny videos. You're gonna like this video.
You have internet access, right?
Yeah, but I have it on. No, I have it.
You're good?
Please God. Oh no. Oh yeah, I have it.
Thank God I brought that.
Is the audio
I heard that.
I'm weak. Can we have it? No, sorry.
Oh no, that's not what I want, dude.
سمع